On today's show, we're talking about Nathan Eovaldi pitching almost too well for his own good this spring, a prospect that's turning Bruce Bochy's head, and who the heck is going to start on opening day? All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Paddock, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Paddock. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, we're talking about Nathan Eovaldi's second start of the spring, a little bit of a nice look for Dane Dunning. We're going to talk probably a little bit about center field and who the heck is going to start on opening day. But let's start with the start. Nathan Eovaldi in his second outing of the spring, going 3 innings, being very economical with his pitch count, so economical that he had to go ahead and throw some more pitches in the bullpen because he was just too efficient for his own good. Going 3 innings, 3 strikeouts, 0 walks, 3 hits, 1 earned run, which with a little bit better defense could have been 0 earned runs, but alas, still a very good start for the Rangers' possible opening day starter. They're definitely an opening day starter for 2024, but just a really good look from Nathan Eovaldi going out there, and he's still working up and ramping up in terms of his velocity, averaging 94 with the fastball, where last year he averaged, about 95.5 miles an hour, so still a little bit below that. Did touch all the way up to 95 miles an hour, still definitely working up to that. We saw a similar pitch mix as to what he was doing last year of throwing primarily splitters, which is not something that happens often, but when you have as good of a splitter as Nathan Eovaldi has, he got 8 swings on it, and 5 of them were swings and misses, so a 63% whiff rate on the splitter is fantastic. And the one pitch he said wasn't really working for him was the cutter, but, of the 5 swings that were taken, 2 of them were swings and misses, although he was catching a little bit too much of the plate. That's where some of his hard contact came, but, still getting a swing and miss on the curveball. Four-seamer got 4 swings and didn't get any swings and misses, but overall, a pretty good day for Eovaldi, who threw 31 pitches in this game, threw 15 more in the bullpen, so those 3 innings will probably ramp up to maybe 4 innings next time. If this pattern continues, then he'll probably throw 4 innings and aim for around 60-ish pitches. Then the next time out, aim for 5 innings and 75 pitches. And then after that, that's basically a full workload of 6 innings and 90 pitches. And I don't know how many more starts he'll have this spring. I'd assume at least 2 or 3 more, maybe 4. But on this schedule, if you're following it, every 5th game, or at least every 5th day, exclude the split squad games, but every 5th game, if you keep going on this Rangers schedule, that lines up for Nathan Eovaldi being slotted for the opening day start. Now, we'll talk more about that later on in the show, whether it should be him or deGrom or someone else. Probably not, but just seeing Nathan Eovaldi out there pitching his heart out, they're doing exactly what he does, was just honestly a little boring, but in the best possible way. Love boring spring trainings. Love them. They are good for your team. Nathan Eovaldi, good for this team, and just see him go out there, go about his business, and know exactly what he's doing, know exactly what he's ramping up to. Just kind of reminded me that this wasn't a guarantee to have Nathan Eovaldi back. Because he has been here for 2 years and he has been such an integral part of this Rangers team. Just honestly, at times I forget that he was actually a free agent this offseason and elected to come back on that 3-year deal. He's going to be here for 5 total seasons, barring some kind of trade or injury or what have you, but Nathan Eovaldi is here. He is such an important part of this roster. Just seeing him, walking alongside these youngsters, seeing him just talk glowingly about all these young pitchers that are in the Rangers system, like Jack Leiter, like Kumar Rocker, like Cody Bradford, like some of the other young up-and-coming guys who are probably going to be in the bullpen, like Cole Winn, which I hope he did talk to Cole Winn about how to throw a splitter properly, because It had a really good effect on Kirby Yates. I don't know that Cole Winsplitter will be quite Yatesian levels or Eovaldian levels, but still just having that kind of leader, having that kind of mentor out there, having a guy who goes about his business in such a methodical way is just such an integral part of the clubhouse is so valuable. And the Rangers need him to have a very boring spring. They need him to just go about his business, slowly ramp up that velocity, slowly ramp all of that stuff up, slowly ramp up his pitch count, his innings, his workload, because they're going to need a horse. They're going to need him to be one of their horses, if not their biggest horse. I think Eovaldi could most definitely lead this team in innings this year, just like he did last year. And I think they're going to need him to. I mean, they're going to need him to be healthy for the long haul. They're going to need him to make 30-ish starts. They're going to need him to be healthy come October. And hopefully, if he is, then they have a chance for a long postseason run, especially if they have their other ace, not quite horse at this point in his career, with the workload on his elbow in Jacob deGrom. If they have these two guys come October and they're in the postseason, we know what having Nathan Eovaldi and one other good starting pitcher can do for a World Series, for your World Series hopes. And especially if that one good pitcher is not Jordan Montgomery, who was very, very good in that World Series run, but you put him next to Jacob deGrom and some of these other guys that the Rangers have going. That is a much different position to be in. But I am just honestly so grateful for Nathan Eovaldi and what he is doing for this team, what he is going to mean for this team, and just see him go out there and have a boring, quiet outing and hearing, yep, everything feels good, elbow feels good, I know exactly what I need to do to go and get built up, I'm going to go do it, and it's going to be fine, it's going to be chill, then I'm going to go play some golf afterwards, because that's what big leaguers do in spring training. You go and you put in your work, and then you're done at 4 or whatever, you can go have the rest of your day. Love that for him. And love that for Dane Dunning, who also had a fantastic outing, maybe even a better outing. 2 innings pitched for Dunning, 2 perfect innings with 3 strikeouts. He was very much living out of the zone. His velocity was also down a little bit from where it was last year. Some of these older guys, some of these more veterans, it seems like they're ramping up more slowly with their velocity as opposed to the young guys like Jack Leiter, like Kumar Rocker, like some of these other guys who are younger in camp, like Skylar Hells as well, and Emiliano Teodo. All those guys just came in just chucking absolute gas. But some of these older guys, especially guys in their, Dane Dunning is, I believe, 30 now. And, Eovaldi is not 30, a little bit older than 30, in his mid-30s. Now he's more slowly ramping up to that velocity, to that workload, and knowing his body a little bit better, and it's a little bit more delicate, a little bit more fragile than the 23, 24, 25-year-olds out there just coming into camp chucking 98, 99s on the scoreboard. But Dunning looked fantastic. I mean, he did a lot of work this offseason, apparently shedding some weight, shedding some bad weight, shedding some bad eating habits as well, losing about 10 pounds, gaining about 5-ish% of muscle. He said he had some bad habits last year, and that's kind of what led to just a really not great year for Dunning. After being the Rangers pitcher of the year in 2023, after leading the team in innings in 2023, which is just such a wild thing. Actually, I'm pretty sure he led the team in innings in 2023. Maybe I'm recalling that incorrectly. Nope, that was right. He led the team in innings by 15, 172 and 2/3 over John Gray's 157 and a third innings. The fact that the Rangers won the World Series with only 2 starting pitchers going 150 innings it's always going to be bonkers to me. But Dane Dunning's importance that year and his importance this year, not quite the same level of importance. I mean, Dunning's honestly just fighting for a roster spot at this point. I mean, he is a guy with good stuff. He is a crafty righty. Not quite Seth Lugo level of having, I believe Lugo has 117 different types of pitches that he throws. It's actually closer to 7 or 9, but Dunning's got 6 legit solid pitches. I think he has scrapped the forkball experiment that he came into last spring looking for a little bit more of an effective pitch against left-handed batters, but he looked really good in this outing. He was out of the zone a lot, but getting a lot of swing and miss out of the zone because the hitters that he was facing, they wanted to expand the zone. I mean, just in terms of his percentage in the strike zone, 36% of the pitches were in the strike zone. But his out-of-zone swing percentage, they were swinging at nearly half the pitches that were out of the strike zone. That's a really good number. And in terms of in the zone, they're only swinging at 70% of those pitches. So they were taking a whole lot of strikes. They were swinging and missing a lot. The slider had nearly half of his swings were swings and misses. 8 swings, 3 swings and misses on the slider. 5 swings, 2 swings and misses on the sinker, a 40% whiff rate on all of his pitches combined through 4 cutters, through 3 changeups, and a partridge and a pear tree. He looked really good in this game. Granted, some of those swings and misses and those expanded zones did come against Austin Hedges, not necessarily the most explosive hitter in the history of baseball, but still just seeing him get those outings there, seeing him feel more comfortable, more confident out there, being a multi-inning mop-up guy, which is probably going to be his role on this team. Maybe he'll make a start or 2 here or there, but just having that every extra arm that can give you some length, that can give you some competent innings, keep your team in ball games when things seem to spiral out of control, that's a valuable pitcher to have, just like Nathan Eovaldi. 2 different roles, but 2 important pitchers nonetheless. Now, in a little bit, we're going to talk about Alejandro Osuna, not Rosario. This Alejandro is not having Tommy John surgery, but he is turning heads this spring training. We'll talk about all that and more right after this. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be back and talking about Jack Leiter's second outing of the spring. Hopefully you can see a little bit more of that sinker, how well it plays, and how much he's trusting some of that other stuff. And maybe he will touch triple digits and not just 99.9 miles an hour on the gun in his second outing this spring training. But the guy who is turning heads is Alejandro Osuna. Last year was the year of Alejandros in the Rangers minor league system. There was only 2 of them, but of the Rangers 4, I think that's 4. Yeah, I think it's defender, it's reliever, it's pitcher, and position player of the year. Of those 4 minor league season awards for the Texas Rangers, 2 of them were taken home by Alejandros. One of them, Alejandro Rosario, the Rangers minor league pitcher of the year. He is going to have Tommy John surgery at some point, or maybe a modified UCL repair surgery at some point in the near future. Don't know exactly when that is going about. Maybe it's happening today as we speak, and then we'll learn about it later on. But the other Alejandro that had a heck of a season in 2024 in the Rangers minor league system was Alejandro Osuna, an outfielder who plays center field, he plays left field, he plays right field. He is from Ahome, Mexico. He's 22 years old. And last year, he just absolutely lit it up offensively between Hickory and Frisco, and actually had better numbers at the higher level. 102 games in the regular season combined last year with 25 in Surprise. You combine all of those, he had 20 home runs in 127 games. That was a little over 550 plate appearances, actually 580, I believe, if my math is mathing correctly off the top of my head, and over 30 doubles, 5 triples. The guy hit 292 combined in the regular season with Frisco and Hickory. I believe you add that 306 from the 121 plate appearances in the Arizona Fall League in Surprise, and I believe that gets his average up to 300 over the year. On base in the high 370s in 265 plate appearances in Frisco. A slugging percentage over 500, a 902 OPS, nearly 80 points better than what he did at the lower level in high A Hickory. I mean, he just looked fantastic out there in Frisco. Now, is he actually a center fielder? Is he more of a corner outfielder? It's hard to say. I mean, I've seen him quite a bit in Frisco defensively. He looks much better in a corner. I think he's a very good defender in a corner outfield spot. The arm, I've seen him make quite a few throws, but I can't tell you definitively how good that arm is. I don't have anything particularly notable to say. To go out there and watch him make some of these plays in the outfield like he's made in spring training so far. I mean, he's played in every single spring training game. He's already had a couple of highlight reel plays, including a diving catch in shallow right field in yesterday's game. He also had a hustle single that he turned into a double because nobody was covering second base. I mean, the Rangers done it a couple of times this spring training, although for some reason for Alejandro Osuna, it didn't count for a double, but when Sebastian Walcott did it, it did count for a double. Not entirely sure why the double standard for scoring there. I think it was different scorekeepers, it was different games. But, Ozuna's been very aggressive on the base pass. He's made these great defensive plays. And Bruce Bochy has praised him, saying this guy's going to play in the big leagues one day. And you know what? I agree. I actually said it first before Bruce Bochy was watching him do these things in spring training. I said this last year. What his ultimate role is, I'm not entirely sure as a big leaguer. I think right now he's more of kind of a fourth outfielder kind of a guy. I mean, he doesn't have elite power, or so I thought when I saw it in games, but he's putting up these massive exit velocities. I mean, 107 miles an hour. He has hit a baseball 107.9 miles an hour, I should say, on that single in yesterday's game. The second hardest hit ball of that game, behind Kyle Higashioka's 109.1 mile an hour line drive. Also seeing Leote put up another 105 plus mile an hour exit velocity after that 107-ish mile an hour 3-run home run he had in the game before. 106.3 miles an hour for Leote Taveras. But seeing Ozuna put up these kind of displays is not something new. This is a guy who is very aggressive. He is a scrappy player. I would liken him as a prospect to Jose Ramirez. Now, that is not me saying that he is going to go out there and become the best right fielder and just play way over his tools. I mean, Jose Ramirez, when he came up, he was a guy who did everything pretty well, but nothing exceptionally well. And through his own hard work and experience, he was a switch hitter. He did play, a little bit of shortstop, a little bit of second, a little bit of third, and did those fine. And Ozuna is an outfielder. But I'm thinking just in terms of when he came up, there was not a whole lot expected of him, but he just kept impressing more and more and more at every single level. Just a guy who lives and breathes baseball. I mean, he was putting up those kinds of numbers at Double-A Frisco, and he was 3.3 years younger than the average player. I mean, this is a young guy. I've had an eye on him for quite some time, just kind of stat line scouting and seeing him putting up eye-catching numbers. I mean, in 2022, in 76 games for Down East, he hit over 300, had a near 345-ish slash line. I mean, 6 points shy of 400 OBP. The slugging was still quite a ways off. I mean, he only had 8 home runs and 13 doubles in 76 games back in Down East, but still turning some heads. And then 2023 in Hickory, he had a 765 OPS on base, still in the 380s. I mean, he has a really good eye at the plate. He didn't look overmatched against lefties that I saw him against. Granted, there weren't that many lefties, and there aren't that many good lefties in general in the minor leagues, but he didn't look overwhelmed by them. But he makes good swing decisions. He can make some hard contact. He's aggressive on the bases. He makes the most of his tools. I mean, he's got above average speed, not elite speed. When he looked fine out there in center field. The games that I saw him quite a few. I thought, he's a capable center fielder. Not a great one, but definitely one who can do the job. I thought he looked really good out there in the corners defensively. We've seen him out there in right field making some of these diving plays. He gets good reads on the ball, not great ones. He uses his speed well. It's not elite speed, but he's putting up these exit velocities. It's making me start to rethink. I mean, he's a guy who's listed at 5'9" and 185 pounds. Not exactly a guy you'd think would be putting up these 105, 107, 108 mile an hour exit velocities, but he's doing it. Not quite at the Sebastian Walcott level, but still, he is getting the most out of his raw power and translating it into game power, translating it into good swing decisions, and just an overall pretty competent player. Do I think he is going to be an everyday player for the Rangers down the line? Probably not. I don't think so, but I think he could be on a different team. I mean, mainly I say that because I think he starts this year in AAA. We'll see what he does there. Maybe he goes back to AA. He did only have, 75-ish games? 57 games. I transposed those numbers in my head. Only 57 games in Frisco. That's not nothing. That's over 250 plate appearances. It's not a big sample size, but it's not a small one. And he absolutely crushed it there. Maybe he'll start back at AA. Maybe he'll be so good that within a month there's like, okay, you got nothing to learn here. Let's bump you up to AAA. But the Rangers' outfield depth is pretty deep at this point. But in terms of guys who were not going to be on the big league roster of that first alternate types, he might have already surpassed Justin Harris. I don't know that he has quite yet, but Harris has been in AAA for a year and a half. He's got 2 or 3 games of big league experience, or he has his first big league hit, his first big league home run. Those happening in game 162 of last year. So good for Dustin Harris to see him get that kind of a mile marker. Dustin is a little bit faster of a player, but defensively, Osuna is significantly better. In terms of the game power actually translating into extra base hits and home runs, I mean, Osuna has got him beat there. In terms of the eye, both of these guys have, pretty good swing decisions, but I've seen Dustin Harris look pretty overmatched against some lefties, and I haven't seen that for Osuna. Maybe that's just because I haven't seen as much of Osuna as I have of Dustin Harris. But still, this is a very good spring training. It's not going to translate into him making the opening day roster. That's fine. He's still so young. He's still going to be 22 for this entire season. Not going to turn 23 until October of this year. So this guy is still ahead of schedule. He was not a guy who was highly thought of, even though his brother was a big league closer for the Astros. Not the same character concerns on Alejandro as there were with his brother, but this was a guy who had a fantastic season. The Rangers recognized that in giving him the Minor League Player of the Year award over Sebastian Walcott, who was a higher ceiling prospect who had a much more challenging assignment and put up not quite comparable numbers, but still very good numbers. And I thought that Bam Bam Sebastian Walcott was going to be the Rangers Minor League Offensive Player of the Year, but Osuna deserved it. Absolutely deserved it, putting up better numbers, putting them up at a higher level. Still a little bit older than Walcott, as is basically everybody in minor league baseball, but still, that was not a charity gift of an award. Alejandro Osuna earned that award, and we're seeing the kind of skills that make him such a good and valuable baseball player. And I had him at 13 in my top Rangers prospects rankings this offseason. At mid-season, I don't think he's going to be 13. I think he's definitely going to be in that top 10. Now, how high he creeps up, it'll depend on how well he does, but what he's done this spring training has definitely turned some heads, and those heads are turning for very good reason. Coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about more of the pitchers that pitched in this game, some of the Rangers' new signings, what I'm expecting from Cole Winn, and more importantly, who the heck is going to pitch for the Rangers on opening day? Talk about all that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios are one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1-ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better-for-you unsaturated fats to help you keep you feeling fuller for longer. Personally, I love the no-shells variety. It's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days. When I'm snacking at my desk on a road trip or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. Whether you're running between meetings or dropping off the kids, Wonderful Pistachios are the snack that works as hard as you do. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Shout out to the Everydayers making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. Back on Monday's show, talking about this weekend's games, talking about anything that we learned and found out about these Rangers pitchers this weekend. And hopefully we will have seen Jacob deGrom throw a live bullpen. It's supposed to happen at some point this week. Probably going to be on March 1st if I were a betting man, but we will have to wait and see when all that's happening. But speaking of Jacob deGrom, he is one of the two. Yes, just 2 pitchers under consideration for starting opening day for the Texas Rangers. It's him or Nathan Eovaldi. Who's going to get the honor? Well, I didn't really think that it was going to be much of a question. You throw your best pitcher on opening day. But who is the Rangers' best pitcher? It's Jacob deGrom. If Jacob deGrom is healthy, he is going to start opening day. Now, the Rangers have won the World Series every single time Jacob deGrom starts an opening day game. Now, it's a sample size of 1, but hey, after this year, it could be a sample size of 2. Every time Nathan Eovaldi has started an opening day game for the Texas Rangers, they have missed the playoffs. Now, I don't think that was the reason that the Rangers missed opening day or missed the playoffs. Maybe if they had a healthy Jacob deGrom for the entire 2024 season, then they would have made the postseason. I don't know. The Rangers needed a lot more help than just one good starter the best starter added for a full healthy season in 2024. But I don't think it should be that much of a question. Maybe it's a sign of respect for Nathan Eovaldi that the Rangers will give him that start on opening day. Maybe it's a sign of respect of him, deciding to come back here. But Jacob deGrom is your best option. He is the best option in general for every game. If he is healthy, you throw him in every game that you can, which is once every fifth day or fifth game, more specifically. Now, I don't know how his pitch count is going to be limited, how his ramp-up is going to be limited in terms of just his overall health. If you're wanting a guy who's going to give you 6-7 innings, be fully built up, and have no kind of restrictions on him, then maybe you do go with Eovaldi over him. If you're just wanting to go out there and give him a show, if you're paying opening day ticket prices, you better be seeing Jacob deGrom. Or maybe the Rangers want to alter their rotation so that Jacob deGrom's second start isn't going to be in Cincinnati, which is an incredibly hitter-friendly park, which I don't think really matters with Jacob deGrom because he's so freaking good he can pitch on the moon and still be very, very effective because, well, maybe not. I don't know about specifically pitching on the moon. I'm sure he would find a way in that clunky spacesuit. Maybe the pinpoint command and all that stuff would be a little bit harder to have while in the spacesuit necessary to pitch on the moon. But I digress. I don't think that there should be much of a conversation involving this. I think it needs to be Jacob deGrom. I think it needs to not be particularly close. I love Nathan Eovaldi. The Rangers love Nathan Eovaldi. It is not a sign of disrespect of him starting the second game of the season versus the first one. It happened already. When Jacob deGrom is healthy, he's the best pitcher on the planet. And as much as we all love Nathan Eovaldi, as much as he is a big hoss in the postseason, as much as he is a World Series hero forever for that Game 5 start, and also the other many postseason starts where he was phenomenal, including the one against Tampa, including the one against the Orioles to clinch that out, including his couple of games against Houston. Very, very necessary, fantastic games against Houston, including the Game 1 game that wasn't great from Eovaldi in the World Series, but led to he pitched in the two most memorable and best games in Rangers franchise history, Game 1 and Game 5 of the 2023 World Series. But this is not a disrespect for him. It is a respect to Jacob deGrom. It is the reason you brought him in here. He is the ace of your staff. If you have one ace, the number one, it's Jacob freaking deGrom. I don't know why this is a question. I don't think it should be a question. And I know I talked about how Nathan Eovaldi is on pace to be built up by opening day, but it's Jacob deGrom. That's it. End of discussion. That's it. No ifs, ands, or buts. And I don't want to hear another word out of you about it. Or if you have something to say, I'm happy to listen. But I don't think that it should be a particularly close discussion. Now, the Rangers had a couple other guys pitch in the game yesterday, including Cole Winn, including Hobie Milner, including Jacob Webb. The two out of those three, I think, will be for surezies on the Rangers opening day roster. For surezies is the technical legal term for when you are 110%, barring injury again. Jacob Webb looked pretty darn good in his one inning of work, facing only left-handed batters, something that I think we will see quite a bit of. Did not get a single strikeout, but still looked good. He's one of those older guys who is working up that velocity. Not that he has a whole lot of velocity to work up to, where last year he averaged 93.5 miles an hour with his four-seam fastball. In this game, it was 94.2. We got to see that nasty changeup with getting a big old swing and a miss. One of the only swing that was taken on it was just a hapless hack. He is very good against left-handed hitters because he has a very, very good changeup. We also got to see him deploy the sweeper just a little bit, as we did with Hobie Milner. His velocity is down in the averaging 86.9 miles an hour with his four-seam fastball, down from the 88.5 miles an hour that he averaged on that sinker. Averaged 87 with the four-seamer in this game, where he averaged 88.8 miles an hour with the four-seamer. Velocity is not the concern with Hobie Milner, who had a couple of strikeouts, who had a couple of ugly swings induced, one of them on the sinker, one of them on the sweeper. He threw threw 27 pitches in his 2/3 of an inning because his defense failed him. He should have gotten out of that inning a little bit easier than he did, but alas, that was not the case. Also gave up a massively loud home run to a batter he probably shouldn't have had to face in Devers, but it was a big old meatball right down the middle. Didn't look particularly convincing, but I'm excited to see Howie Milner in all of his funk in a game where I can actually watch that's televised. Hopefully sometime before opening day. I'm sure we'll see him in at least a few more spring training games, as we will with Cole Winn, who looked pretty darn good in his scoreless inning of work, getting himself a save, not allowing a hit, allowing just one walk, getting one strikeout, and a double play that immediately erased that walk. And I'm excited to see what Cole Winn can bring. I mean, the four-seamer looked good in this outing, averaging 96 miles an hour, which would lead the Rangers bullpen in terms of guys who are bringing that heat. Not a whole lot of velocity there, touching all the way up to 96.9 miles an hour. I mean, if he can have, that velocity with the four-seam fastball, I think that will make everything else play a little bit better. He threw a little bit of everything in this one, through the splitter, through the slider, through the sinker, through the four-seamer, through the one curveball. Seeing him with that kind of repertoire, I think, is good. Seeing him, use that splitter to scrap the changeup. The splitter was a very effective pitch for him last year. It was part of the reason that he did end up making his big league debut, which I am so thrilled about. I mean, having a whiff rate in this game, he had 7 swings, 4 swings and misses, a 57% whiff rate on 16 pitches. That was really good. It was a really, really good outing for Cole Winn. I don't think he's going to have that much of a chance to make the opening day roster, but he's got some minor league options, so he will be pitching in some games in relief for the Texas Rangers. Those probably won't be in high leverage roles, but I mean, who knows? If he can tick that velocity up just one tick more, if he can average 97 miles an hour with the fastball, maybe he will end up slotting into this bullpen in some high leverage innings. Even if not, the Rangers are going to need at least a couple of outings from Cole Winn this year, and seeing him look this sharp in the spring is nothing but warming to my cold spring training heart. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.